Again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
Favorite time of the week, but not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews in your fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. The most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that mile high Broncos country.
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news.
What's going on, Broncos country? How's it going, everybody? We are back at home against the Houston Texans, and we're excited to chop it up with you here at the Tailgate Talk, here with Jason, getting ready to get some interesting insights from you, Jason, on some of these inactive lists that just came out and how you're feeling about it here in a minute. But first off, how you feeling? How you feeling about the game so far? Like, how you feeling coming into it?
Overall, good. I think this is going to be a great bounce back opportunity for the Broncos playing this Texans team. They did obviously tie the Colts in a surprise game last week, but seeing as the Colts are also getting shut out by the Jacks right now,
yes,
the Colts were really oversold. So either way, this is absolutely a game that the Broncos should win. Granted, we could say that last week too, but regardless, this is a game that it's a good get right game. First game at home, team's going to be amped. First time Wilson's going to be in front of the Broncos home crowd on the good side, which is going to be nice. So, overall, it's an exciting game, and I think the Broncos are going to respond pretty well.
Yep, sounds good. Allison, I'm going to pull it up because this is on me. I must not have spelled his name right. I don't know if it's autocorrect. I think I missed an S in there or something. Missed an L. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Allison. Don't mean to make anybody mad, but super excited for Russell to come in first time in the orange and blue here in Bronco Stadium. I know he's been practicing his high fives coming into the stadium the whole time, so I think he's ready. He's ready for it. But before we get into that, guys, post your comments, questions, concerns about how you guys feel. This is an interactive show. We want to talk to you guys about how you guys are feeling leading up 1 hour before. And while you guys are posting your questions, Jason, we've talked about this. You saw my Twitter, and I'm going to talk about it. It's the only thing non-Broncos I want to talk about right now. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to watch the game because of DirecTV, man. I'm not going to lie. I thought I was watching the Sunday Ticket this morning, and everything went dark, and I was mad. I was like, there's no way they're not going to let me watch the game. But it looks like it's back up, so I got that going for me.
It only took angering half the NFL fan base for them to address it.
Oh yeah, I jumped on Twitter just to see what was going on, because I did the whole restart my internet. I restarted the app. I deleted it. I was doing everything, and as soon as I go on Twitter, I'm like, oh, this is not a me problem. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of angry people on Twitter right now at DirecTV and AT&T, but it looks like it's back up, so I'll be able to watch the game, which is good.
So we're already off to a good start.
Yeah, off to a great start. All right, Russell Wilson, first game back against the Texans. What are we expecting? I mean, he was the third, was it number 3 or number 4th most yards passing last week.
Yep.
Obviously we just couldn't put it in the end zone. We had a couple issues there. What are we expecting of him this week? A little bit more maybe to the wide receivers? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, I need to look up how many yards after catch there were last week. They took advantage of a very aggressive Seattle front seven, right? They did a bunch of those screen passes, a bunch of those dump offs, and let the running backs kind of do their thing and get a lot of yards after the catch. And so Houston doesn't have that quite aggressive style. They're more traditional in their defense. So how that adjusts the Broncos game plan will be interesting to see. I do expect him to use the wide receivers a bit more, fewer screen passes to the running backs. And so, ideally, we get up a couple possessions early and then we, just old school football at that point, just hand it off to our running backs and let them get the job done. But early on, I expect a pretty good pass game to our wide receivers and see what we can take advantage of.
Yeah, that was another complaint. I mean, obviously he was the fourth, no turnovers. He had a 340 yards, like pretty good numbers out there. But a lot of people were complaining about how our running backs, both of them had 5 yards per carry. And for some reason, we kind of abandoned the run game, and there was no real need to. We were never really down enough to abandon the run game. So I think that's something we're looking at too. All right, going into it real quick, Jason, I want to talk a little bit about the inactives, this current inactives right now. We got KJ Hamler, Jalen Virgil, who is our rookie speedster, who I think a lot of us were expecting to be that backup to KJ Hamler with the lack of. It looks like I don't know if he's a healthy scratch. I haven't read anywhere why he's on that list. I assume he's a healthy scratch. Nick Bonito, I know he's a healthy scratch. Josie Jewell out, Turner out, Quinn Miners, we all knew about those ones, and then Uwazurike on the defensive line. What do you think? And there's a lot of line on there, a lot of our bruisers on that list. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's I won't get into. I know I've talked to it to death in our group chat, but preseason matters, and I think not all of them, but there are definitely some questionable results of not having players in the preseason and seeing a lot of these soft tissue injuries creep up all of a sudden. It was I expected it. So again, this is a team, even with this inactive list, this is a team that the Broncos should be. We are deep enough in enough positions. If we were playing a Baltimore Ravens team or, a top end team, I'd be a lot more worried. But this is a week where I'm okay seeing these kind of inactives and, and to that point too, I'm sure the coaching staff and athletic training staff and all that, a lot of strategy in this involved too, right? Maybe if we're playing a tougher team, maybe they do try to get Josie Jewell out. Maybe they do try to, push Hamler a little bit more. But knowing who they're playing, if they have enough confidence in the lineup they have, then hey, let's give these guys an extra week's rest and try to get them right for the rest of the season.
Yeah, totally agree. It's unfortunate. Lucky, I'm pretty sure none of these are really season ending. I think most of these guys will be back. I think a lot of these guys are on short term IR. So far we're kind of lucky on the season ending stuff, and knock on wood on that. But KJ Hamler, it looks like he's only going to be out for a couple weeks. And then Josie Jewell, we kind of knew he's been battling back and forth and kind of on and off. We don't know when he's coming back. I think he had a chance to come back this week, but we kind of slow playing it.
Right. Yeah.
That's what a lot of it. Quinn Miners was a little bit. I don't think anybody remembered him really getting hurt, and then Billy Turner on the outside. That kind of sucks. That right tackle spot is difficult for us right now. It always has been for the last few years. So it's losing the depth there is, or our starter who started the game before is a little rough. But I think we'll be able to get through it.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree with that.
All right, so going into a question here, Daniel says, are we worried about the Evero defensive play calling in the first half of game one because it was such a disaster? What you got?
It wasn't a disaster. At least the play calling was it. The first half was very sloppy. And again, I attribute most of that to no preseason play for these starters. Missed tackles, stupid penalties, holding, grabbing, all that nonsense. Second half, we shut them down completely. 0 points. How many first downs did Seattle have in the second half?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was big broken plays.
Right. Yeah. And to me, a couple things that came with that. One, again, preseason played a factor in that sloppy first half for the defense. But what I like to see is they clearly made adjustments at halftime, right? They went from a pretty rough first half to then second half complete shutdown, whether that was just addressing the mental mistakes, whatever it was, the adjustments were made. I wouldn't attribute the first half of that game to the play calling or our defensive coordinator. I expect that to continue to be pretty well. And I expect them to shut down the Texans pretty well today. Yeah,
it's something that we've talked about in nauseum at this point, but the whole focus going into this season, while we know, okay, we finally have a quarterback, we have a new coaching staff, young coach staff, that's a problem sometimes. You have a brand new coaching staff, a very young, brand new coaching staff coming in. You don't know what you're going to get from them. Game one, you're going up against a guy like Pete Carroll. It's kind of hard to be that young defensive coordinator going up against a guy like Pete Carroll who's done this for a long time and knows how to game plan against defenses regardless of what it is. So yeah, I think they made great halftime adjustments, and I think that we don't have anything to worry about now that both teams have film. That's the other piece. We have film on the games. I'd expect a couple weird things that we haven't seen yet, but yeah, the new coaching staff coming in, that's what I'm chalking it up to that. They were a new coaching staff. They didn't really have a lot of experience with the guys, with the team, and Pete Carroll did. So that's kind of how that started off.
And that's a good point too. Something that I think Broncos fans should expect through the season is there's going to be some growing pains, right? I mean, not just with Hackett, but a lot of these coaches in these positions, it's their first time with their responsibilities, right? This is a very inexperienced coaching staff in terms of years at their role. And you're going to see some mistakes through this year. You're going to see some coaching mistakes. It's part of the process. You hope that it's limited, and you hope that it doesn't cost many games. But I think Broncos fans should expect, there's going to be games throughout this year where we're kind of left scratching our head a little bit because they're learning too. It's a growing year for them. And so, again, you just hope it doesn't cost you any games. But yeah, definitely, I expect throughout the course of the season, there's going to be some moments where we're wondering what they were thinking.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm gonna get this from you because I don't like talking about last games. We're talking about tailgate talk. How did you feel about the Nathaniel Hackett end of the game, 4th and 5? How did you feel about that call?
I think everybody agrees it was a pretty bad call, pretty bad decision. I'd be curious to get a very honest answer of what his entire thought process was. He said that he talked to McManus before the drive and the edge was 64 yards. Well, okay, that doesn't mean in his head at the start of the drive he was going, just get to 64 yards. We'll take it from there, right? And so,
right.
You're 4th and 5. You had how much time was left at a minute or so, roughly?
Yeah, there was like a minute, and we had 2 timeouts left.
Right, and so why you don't call a timeout right there and at least discuss it, right? Call a timeout right away. What do I want to do here? But I do. What I appreciated was his response following. We didn't see the stubborn, refusing to admit a mistake response in the days after. Right? He straight up said, after I slept on, it was the wrong call. I shouldn't have done that. And so I think that was a nice change of pace in not just Broncos past, but I think in the NFL in general. You generally see coaches stand by their decision, right or wrong, in front of the press, and rationalize it however they want to. So yeah, in the moment, I think everyone agrees it was the wrong call. Especially, why bring in Russell Wilson if you're not gonna, his end of the game heroics are part of what makes him a future Hall of Fame quarterback, right? It's his end of the game drives. And so, but again, it's nice to see him admit the mistake. And again, that's what I'm talking about. You're going to see those mistakes, but as long as the coaching staff is willing to learn, and adjust, then I think long-term that's going to pay off.
Yeah, I think in the moment, he as a new head coach, he kind of played the odds. Like, we were terrible on 4th down all game, and I think he was like 4th and 5. You're talking now, we couldn't even punch it in at 4th and 1. We had there were so many like negatives on the 4th down piece, and then he trusting the kicker, which again is something I think McManus is, while he missed it, probably super happy that he has a coach that finally believes in him. Because I remember we had a couple times it's like, why are you not putting McManus out there? It's a 58-yard field, like 55-yard field goal. Like, let him make the kick, man.
Right.
So I think he's happy about that. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was like kind of a, we'll say, rookie mistake, right, on that aspect. And he's going to learn from it and go from it. That you have to understand that you have to play to win. Okay, let's move on. In the past, let's move on to this Texans game. Is there anybody on the Texans squad right now that scares you?
None that come to mind, to be honest. This is a very winnable game, even with our injuries. This isn't known to be a powerhouse team. They're expected to have another rough year. Really, there's no one that jumps out that makes me worry that they're going to be a game breaker and cost the Broncos the game. There's really no excuse for the Broncos to lose this one.
No. We're favored, I think, right now. The money line is 10 points. The spread's 10 points. Money line's plus 360. I guess minus 480 for the Broncos, which means if we don't win by more than 10 points, Vegas wins. Like they're expecting us to absolutely blow these guys out, and 10-point spreads is pretty hard to do. So I will say this, and I'm just going to mention it because, I know you've been watching, Jason, me and David have a little bit of a back and forth about inside linebackers right now and how important they are to the defense. And I think that we have a little bit of worry about that interior defensive line depth as well, and the interior run, because they have a decent offensive line that they just don't have anybody else to play for. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get Rex Burkhead to run a couple big plays off of us. Also, we forgot, not on the inactive list. I don't know why he wasn't on there. Justin Simmons, was he on there?
He wasn't on there because he's on IR. So because
he's on IR, that's right.
He's on IR. They don't have to worry about putting him on that list. But yeah, he's out. So
talking about another defensive player that's usually helping out with the run stop, Kareem Jackson usually comes up and helps out there, but Caden Stern's probably getting his first full game at safety, so that'll be interesting to watch. I think we have a lot of faith in Caden Stearns. I like Caden Stearns, and I've seen his play. He's actually gotten out there in a lot of nickel and dime packages, and I think he's a good backup. He's a good step up for Justin Simmons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people talked about our depth at wide receiver this year. I think our depth in our secondary is just as good. And it's, kind of by committee, Justin Simmons is obviously one of the best in the entire league. And so you can't just replace him with another player, but by committee, I think this team absolutely can. And, I mean, PS2 showed that he's an absolute shutdown corner already. And so, about an increased workload for him. I mean, he smothered DK Metcalf. And so, which is very encouraging because, years past, we might have been in a position where teams will target, that rookie or that second year corner because they expect to struggle. But obviously it's tough to lose Justin Simmons, but this is a secondary that I think can absolutely handle that workload without him. Short term.
On that piece, I remember Bradley Roby getting completely just like annihilated by bigger physical guys because he's a little more of a quick. He's not a physical guy. So yeah, you're right. I don't know what it is. We were watching. So we have PFF, like all the extra stats, right? And we're looking at game film. We're looking at extra stats for the pregame podcast. And for some reason, Pat Surtain got a really bad grade on PFF for that game. Yeah, I don't know what they're using, what metric they're using. If it's just specifically catches against, because he got a catch against on the screenplay, but he lost 5 yards on it. Right. So I feel like I don't know what the metric is that PFF is going off of. And as I was reading, I was like, that's not okay.
Yeah, that's bizarre. He gave up 7 catches, but it was like for a total of like 34 yards.
30 yards total.
Catches, you're looking at like 100-yard game there, and so I don't know if they just factor in that catches against it as like a major mark against, but I don't know, especially DK Metcalf, who's such a huge guy and can usually shed those tackles and get those major yards after catch.
Well, they were out there playing basketball on some pitch and catches. Both he was boxing them out, and they were both there. And it's just a great catch by DK Metcalf. But it's not like Pat wasn't there, being physical and looking for the ball and getting the tackle right away. It was really weird. He was almost textbook corner play, exactly what you want. And some reason did not get the grades on PFF. I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah. Hey guys, I'm just gonna give a few shout outs. Thank you guys so much for joining the show. Thomas, let's go Broncos. Paula, let's go Broncos. Anthony, we got all across the board. Tina, Anthony, let's go Broncos. I think everyone's super excited about this game back in Mile High. I mean, I know I'm stoked. I'm excited to see Russell come out and get cheered for the first time in a Broncos uniform, right? And just see what he could do when he's sitting there with the fans behind him. Here's another thing I want to see cleaned up a little bit, and I want to see cleaned up is something that we've seen with this new coaching staff and a new quarterback with new wide receivers and everything. We had 4 delay game penalties, 3 or 4, and we had to take a couple timeouts when we probably didn't need to because of miscommunication and understanding what the play was. I know the fumble for Javonte Williams was an audible call that the offensive line didn't hear. Right. So I think part of that is the fact that you're in that stadium, right? The Seahawks Stadium, one of the loudest ones in the league. Yep. But also, like, maybe part of it's like, okay, we need to be on the same page as far as our audible goes. Something that's really cool that I'm seeing this year is stuff that we saw with the Peyton Manning era, where the head coach or the offensive coordinator is sending in 2 to 3 plays and letting Russ pick his play. He's out there making adjustments every single time he gets out there. He's looking at the defense, make adjustments. I think that's really cool, and I think that's really good for us going forward as we go forward. Because I think that's another thing Russ wanted as he left Seattle,
right?
Is he wanted a little more autonomy in his offense.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. A lot of that, I think Robert in the comment mentioned that part of it was the noise, sure, but part of it, like you said, is just that communication factor and that the new offense for a lot of these guys, and it's just new style for a lot of them. So that does take a little bit more time to communicate, making sure you're on the same page. And so, yeah, you're right. And being at home should help. But you're right. Yeah. That is something that hopefully they addressed a little bit more through this week, through practices, making sure that everyone can get on the same page quickly. Because, there were, even like you said, I think 4 delay of games, but how many times were like, as 00 showed on the clock is when they were getting the ball off. And so,
it was a lot.
It seemed to be, I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've watched a game where I was constantly like staring at the play clock, like get the ball off, get the ball off, get the ball. It was like every single play. And so, hopefully that they're a little bit better in that regard for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about that, we talked about the delay of games. Penalties in general killed us. I think in the first half we had like 80 yards in penalties already, and it was just a little bit out of hand. I think a lot of those were delayed game penalties. We had a big pass interference that kind of took a lot of holdings. Oh yeah, the taunting one, a little questionable, but I get it, right? It is.
I despise that penalty in the NFL. It's the dumbest thing. Like we're really worried about grown men hurting each other's feelings. Like come on, but at the same time, how long has that been a real penalty now, right? These guys should know by now, hey, you make a big hit, just walk away. Celebrate away from the player. Don't even take that chance. And sure enough, and it was a taunt. By the rule, it was a taunting, right? He stood over him, looked down, and talked crap. That's going to be a flag 100% of the time. You have to know that by now. And so, again, as much as I despise that penalty, don't even give the ref a chance to throw that flag, right? Just
it's not new, like you said.
Celebration dance with your back turns the play, whatever. That rule's been in there long enough where there's no excuse to take those taunting penalties anymore, as stupid as they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony brings up a good point. We fumbled twice on the 1 yard line, and I'm telling you, man, this week, most of us here at Orange Weekly, and I'm pretty sure everybody out there in Broncos country, everybody knows you're a Broncos fan, right? It's not a hidden thing. So as I'm walking around work this week, a lot of people like, because it was a Monday night game, everybody saw it.
Right.
Everybody's like, man, I can't believe you lost to the Seahawks. You let Geno Smith throw all over you. It's like, and all I could say was 2 fumbles on the 1 yard line. Like that's all I could say, because it's like you punch those in, we win that game handily. Right.
Well, and there were a couple others. There was the dropped pass. Which tight end was that? I can't remember. It had the ball in the end zone, dropped it. Then our
the diving one.
Yeah,
the diving one. It was close. I kind of don't really blame. It was a great ball. I kind of really don't blame him because it would have been a miraculous catch if he got it.
Yeah, and then there was the one where he couldn't quite get those toes in the. And those are all missed opportunities too, right? Obviously, the fumbles are the easiest to talk about. And then there was the one that the penalty on Sutton that cost them some yardage. It was like it was the false start on Sutton that took us further back.
Took us pulled back. Yep.
Who knows? So there were a lot of missed opportunities there. Obviously the fumbles are the easiest to talk about, but there were other opportunities as well, right?
Just missed red zones.
Right.
Missed red zone opportunities.
That last kick we talked was a bad decision, but he had the leg for it. He got the distance. It was just slightly wide, right? And so just matter. It was one of those games where I won't say the exact phrase because we moved on from this era, but it was a game that was defined by inches. We'll put it that way.
Yes. I'm glad you changed up glad you changed it up a little bit. I definitely agree. All right, moving on a little bit. We got a couple. You see the fight of Tampa and Saints. Yeah, I have Mike Evans on my fantasy team, and I got a notification that he's no longer in the game. I didn't get to see the fight, but yeah, I heard that it got a little rough out there.
A little bit.
And then, hopefully we don't have any of that. Normally we don't get any of that until we play like the Raiders or someone who's going to talk more crap than we do. And then we'll get some chain snatching, go back to the old days of chain snatching. And
there we go.
And then clock management. So we kind of talked about the clock management piece earlier. Not too much we could do. But for now, let's take a break, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this new podcast. Obviously, if you guys aren't listening to us on StreamYard, Spotify, Google Play, Apple podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We have a pregame and postgame podcast that come out before every single game. David and I did a real in-depth analysis of this game, talking about matchups that we're worried about, matchups that we're looking at. Hint, hint, I talk about inside linebackers. But if you're not listening to the podcast, make sure you guys go download it. And if you're listening to the podcast, please make sure you guys are going out there and at least take a look at Raycon wireless earbuds. Raycon's everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever with optimized gel tips and the perfect in-ear fit. These earbuds are so comfortable and they will not budge. All right, Raycon gives you 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery life. Raycon's priced just right. You get the quality audio at just half the price of all the other premium audio brands. It's no wonder that Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 50,000 five-star reviews. There's a couple big things that they pride themselves on, right? 3 customizable sound profiles, earbud tap functions to update anything as you're on the go, noise isolation, and awareness mode. So this is what we need you to do. You need to go to buyraycon.com today and use the code TPPN to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's promo code TPPN15 at buyraycon.com to score that 15% off. Buyraycon.com, code TPPN15. Also, if you guys aren't currently aware, we are sponsored by Draftkings. You can see it all over the place. Guys, if you guys aren't on Draftkings at this point and you guys are in a betting state, you guys are way behind the times. But if you have not signed up yet, we have a great deal for you, because this is the second week of the NFL season, and they are bringing out even bigger wins at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any football game and get $200 in free bets instantly. Everyone can experience the thrill of DraftKings early win promotion. It's simple. This Sunday, you bet on any NFL team to win. If your team leads by 10 at any point during the game, you get paid instantly. We talked about it. Broncos are favored by 10 points right now. If at any point you bet on the Broncos to win and we are up by 10 at any point in the game, you win $200 right off the bat. You can't beat those odds. This is what we need you to do. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code TPPN to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code TPPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Make sure you're checking out that show notes we have posted below for details. All right, we got that out of the way. All right. Whew, that's a lot. I gotta take my little bit of orange drink. Gotta drink that orange drink. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Yeah, you gotta recover from all that. Yeah, that's.
Oh man.
I've those promotions are so great with the new signups that I've thought about making up multiple identities just so I can keep signing up and get those sign up.
I know,
but
and I'm gonna have to check, because I mean it doesn't say nobody. It says everybody. It says everybody can get this one. So 10, I'm interested.
Yeah, the 10-point one is for everybody. The $200
I think this is for everybody.
Yeah, the $200 free one is for the new ones, I think, but
for new signups. Yeah. So I love DraftKings. Unfortunately, I live in California, which is a non-betting state, but I know anytime I'm going to Vegas, which is right around the corner, or back to Colorado to visit, I'm making sure I look at my DraftKings Sportsbook app and use it for sure, because I mean, there's so many cool things that you could do. And if you listen to us, I mean, we have a lot of really good takes here. Here's the question, Gav. Here's a question, Jason. Will we be up by 10 at any point in this game?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. I mean, it's undoubtedly like we are going to be up by 10 at some point in this game.
Yep. I think that's pretty certain for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's no certain things in football, I guess, but I would be pretty shocked if the Broncos don't win by double digits.
Yes. All right, well, we're getting close to the end of the show. We're going to get you guys a chance to get some beers, get ready for the game here in a couple minutes. I think we got about 25 minutes till game start here. So as we're getting ready to go into our predictions, make sure you guys are posting your predictions. If you get it right at the end of the year, your name gets put in for a big prize here from Orange Weekly. So make sure you guys are putting in some of those score predictions into the comments. I think we already have a couple. Joey thinking 27-13 for the Broncos. And I think we had another one. Daniel thinks it's 31-13 for the Broncos. Everyone thinks that Houston's scoring 13 points. And I'll kick it over to you, Jason. What are you thinking about your score prediction and why?
Daniel's really close with what my prediction is. I was thinking Broncos 31, Texans 12. I don't think the Texans will get a touchdown on us, but I think they'll kick some field goals. I think it's just going to be a dominant performance for the Broncos. I think, again, they're going to jump up to a very quick start, and then they'll start, running the ball a lot. Second half is what I'm thinking. So great news if you're a fantasy owner of one of our backs. I think they're going to pick up some good yardage, some touchdown carries and all that. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be a good bounce back game. So 31-12 is what I'm saying.
31-12. I like it. 34-10 here. I like the 12 because I do agree. I don't think they get in the end zone. I lied. I take that back. I think they get in the end zone once, and I think it's going to be a run up the middle. And it's going to be a broken play. I see it. I can imagine it. I see it in my head. Watch it be like a big touchdown pass over the side. But I'm thinking it's going to be a run up the middle. Burkhead's going to break one, and I think he's going to get in the end zone at least once, whether it be from 20 yards out or 40 yards out. I'm not sure, but I think it's a big game for our running backs as well. I think we get at least a couple scores there. I think we get 2 touchdowns over the air, and the rest of them are going to be on the ground. And I think that with our running back by committee, which we still have 5 yards per carry last game, I think we really just run over these guys. So I'm more on I do like 30 points, mostly because everybody's commenting over 30 points. Also, it is so rare in the past 5 years for the Broncos to get over 30 points. And I'm just super happy that we have an opportunity to say this and not be.
I was going to say, when was the last time anyone predicted 30 points for the Broncos?
Yeah. And we're not sitting here being like 35-0. Broncos got this, right? Like we actually have hope that we're going to score 25 points this game, 35 points. So I agree. I think 31. I think I'm on the edge of 31-10, 31-13 maybe. I think they do get a touchdown and a couple field goals, but our defense is going to maybe bend don't break a little bit, and they kick a couple field goals. But yeah, 31-13 would be really, really nice at home for Russell Wilson to finish that off. How are you feeling about the wide receiver depth as we move on a little bit, and we got a couple more minutes before we get to the game? How are we feeling about our wide receiver depth without KJ Hamler? How are we feeling about the splits between Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy? If you were a fantasy owner and you had Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, and you had to choose one to start, which one are you starting?
That's tough. I would probably go with Jeudy. I think he had a solid game. Week 1, but even if you look back to last year, he was one of the top receivers in separation in the league. He just didn't have a quarterback who could get him the ball. and the few times he got the ball, he dropped it. So I mean that was right last year too. I just think that teams are gunning so heavily on Sutton, doing a lot of double coverages. I think they're just really doing everything they can to lock down Sutton by committee, that it frees up Jeudy a little bit more. And so I know that. I think Wilson loves Sutton. They had a great connection throughout training camp and all that stuff. But I think that Judy's going to have more of an opportunity in getting the ball. And so I'd roll with Jeudy because I just think that, again, he's going to get more of those underneath routes and then yards after the catch.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going to go off of one play to judge my entire life on this Jeudy versus Courtland Sutton, and it's the play. I don't remember what the down and distance was. Courtland Sutton had a little spot over the middle of the field, I think on the hashes, about 5 to 10 yards. Russell Wilson, I don't know what he was looking at, but Courtland Sutton was open the entire play, and he finally comes back and finds him wide open to get the first down. But he definitely was not reading. I don't know what he was reading on the backside. He wasn't reading him as his first one. So I'm thinking that he's starting to think he's looking other places. Maybe this is just inside of me. But, Courtland Sutton was wide open the entire play, just kind of sitting in his zone. And he finally gets him the ball. He gets the catch in yards. But, him not being that first look, when you're talking about having those two guys out there, why is he not your first look? He should be the guy that you go to right away. So I'm definitely on the Jerry Jeudy train. I think Jerry Jeudy, he likes him deep. That's the other thing. I think he likes Jerry Jeudy deep a little bit more than Courtland Sutton. I think he's going to have a huge game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so the running backs, Melvin Gordon gets more touches last week. Who gets more touches this week? Melvin Gordon or or Williams?
It's tough. I mean, I would say probably Williams, just because that's how they've been doing it more times than not. But it's going to be close. I think it's, at most you see a 60-40 split. So it's going to be pretty even. And it might be, one of those days where whoever gets the hot hand is going to keep getting the ball, right? If one's struggling a little bit and the other is really taking off, then I would expect to see more of that back. And so generally speaking, I think we're going to see Williams more. But as the game dictates how it's going to be, we might see that change a little bit.
Yeah, you'd like to see. They said Javonte Williams was the guy going forward, and you even heard Melvin Gordon talking about, like, I'm okay taking back seat to Javonte, and I'm okay being there to be his break. But yeah, you saw Javonte Melvin Gordon get a lot more touches, and I really do think that they're not trying to pitch count anybody. They're not looking out there and they're not saying, like, oh, who's the running back? Oh, we got to get him the ball.
Right.
It's, hey, whatever running back's out there, they're calling the same plays across the board. Whatever running back's out there, if he gets the play call, he gets the play call.
Yep.
And I think that's what got to that touches, like why Melvin Gordon got more touches, even though they said Javonte was the guy.
Right. Yep. And I know that obviously the narrative that we even talked about last week is the fumble issue. Yeah. But hey, both of them fumbled at the 1 yard line, and in Melvin Gordon's defense, his was more justifiable in that it was a 4th down, right? So you got to extend the ball, you got to reach out. Normally you wouldn't do that if it's first, second, or third down. You're having ball security, but in that moment, it's either take that risk and try to get over the goal line, or you lose the ball. Either way, right?
Yeah, either way, you're losing the ball.
And so his was more justifiable in my opinion, compared to Williams, who just lost the ball, right? And so I know that's the narrative, but I think it might have been even you that mentioned, hey, Melvin Gordon had the same amount of fumbles as Jonathan Taylor last year, right? And nobody in the league is saying anything negative about Jonathan Taylor, right? He's a beast of himself. And so I hope that Broncos fans don't try to hold that against Melvin Gordon going into this game, especially if they see Gordon getting more touches than Williams. At the end of the day, I think he's a great back. He's got great vision, great pass protection, which you love to see in a back, especially for someone like Russell Wilson. I have no problems with Melvin Gordon. I think he's a great complement of the offensive system here.
Yep, absolutely. I don't see it. I don't even see a problem with Melvin Gordon to get more touches. Honestly, I think he's got great vision. They both are different running backs, and I like Melvin Gordon out of the backfield. I like Javonte Williams in space, but I like Melvin Gordon as a target out of the backfield a little bit more. But I mean, you have two guys who really could be starting at be the number one guy with no backup anywhere else, and we have two of them to be out there to do whatever we want, which is great and a little bit of a change of pace for us. And I like that a lot. So. All right, so we got about 15 minutes till game time. Let's wrap this up, Jason. Let's go with our closing thoughts. We'll wrap this up. Go grab your snacks, your drinks, and get ready for the game here in Mile High against the Houston Texans. So, final thoughts. What you got?
Expect a fun game. I think it's going to be a great game that a lot of fans are going to feel a return of Denver Bronco football as it should be. It's going to be our first, I think, taste of what this team can be since the departure of Peyton Manning. We've kind of been in this, weird zone of what can be, what can't be for the past 5 years, having 5,000 different quarterbacks in the meantime. I think this is going to be a great game where we can see what our quarterback of the future is going to be like, how this offensive system is going to be like, and what the potential of this team is.
Yep, I think this is not going to be an any given Sunday. I think you're right, 100%. When was the last time we, I don't want to say it out loud. I want to knock on wood a little bit. When was the last time we blew out anybody? When was the last time that we scored so many points? Sorry, I do remember because I was there with my brother-in-law. It was Dallas, and we absolutely destroyed Dallas for whatever reason.
Yep.
But outside of that, nobody was expecting that. I think this is the first time that we kind of expect a win, and we're gonna get the win.
Yep.
And it's gonna be handed, and then we're gonna walk out of there being like, yeah, that's exactly what should have happened. And like you said, you're right. I think it's been a while since Broncos country's had that. Every game for the past couple years has been like, I don't know, we're playing the Jets, they could run all over us. What are we talking? This is the first game. This is the first time I think we're super confident. We're gonna walk out of there and be like, that's exactly what Broncos football was supposed to look like. And we move on 1-1 going into next week and start looking at some of these AFC West, and we'll talk about that on Tuesday night shows. But man, the AFC West is hot, on fire, and it's going to be dangerous.
Right now. Yep.
It is a scary division to be in, and it is up in the air still 100%. And I think people, the one cool thing about the whole losing to Seattle is that people are counting us out a little bit. And I think people are counting us out of the division so that when we come into the division, start playing divisional games and are competing / maybe winning some of these games, we have a stake at the throne, if you for lack of a better term there.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones lately, so we have a little stake at the throne. We have a little stake at the throne there at the top of the AFC West when we start playing these Kansas City and Chargers. That Thursday night game was amazing.
Oh, what a game!
Oh man. What a game. Justin Herbert going out there hurt and trying to throw it out and trying to finish it, and I got to give the kid credit, man. He was battling. They
almost came back. They almost got that onside kick too. Oh
yeah. It was a good game. That's AFC West football, and I'm excited to see that for the rest of going forward. But hey, Jason, if you got nothing else, I think we go ahead and finish this off. Let me grab my drink real quick. Thank you guys so much for showing up, guys. Make sure you guys are checking out the podcast. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Orange Weekly Podcast. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, all of the social medias. We are bringing you the best Broncos content. And then make sure you're here at halftime. As soon as you guys pick up your phone, because it's halftime and you guys want to check out your stats on your scores, pull us up. Make sure you're listening to us as we talk about what happened on that halftime for the halftime stuff. But without everything else said, without further ado, Jason, we ended off on a very strong.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know I'm a pro.